Hello, welcome. How are you all doing? I hope you're having a great time here. Oh, I had just been telling everybody in the back that I was not going to go for the easy applause, and there you did it. You set me up. All right, so for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about how you and I work together to secure your data in Slack. My name is Larkin Ryder. I'm the Director of Risk and Compliance for Slack. I work for Jeff Belknap. Did everyone see our Chief Security Officer at the keynote this morning? Yes, more cheap applause. Thank you. That was really great. I loved the conversation with Melody and Jason. They covered a lot of issues about their security programs that are near and dear to my heart. And we'll talk a little bit more about our security program later. My job is to make sure that you all know that your data is safe in Slack's care. So we hear all the time how much our customers love using Slack, and that's great. But what we want to make sure you know is that you can trust it too. So as we work together to secure your data, I'm going to divide this presentation into two parts. The first part of the presentation will talk about the features we provide to you so that you can do your part of securing your data. I'm sure you have a data governance and a security and compliance program where you work, and being able to use Slack effectively to support those programs is an important part of your business success. And in the second part, we'll talk about the Slack-operated security measures. So as a cloud service, we know you depend on the people, processes, and infrastructure at Slack to keep your data safe. And I'm going to talk about some of the highlights of our security program. I can't say that I'll be able to cover everything, not by a stretch. But I hope when I'm done here today, you guys will sleep a little bit better at night, knowing your data is safe in our care. All right, so starting with those customer-operated security measures. So we talk with our customers every day. I personally probably meet with an average of one customer per day, and I love doing that. I learn a great deal about the challenges that the customers are facing, about what their needs are for effective data governance and security compliance. We talked to customers like Capital One. So Capital One came to us a while ago, and they were struggling to modernize their business and optimize employee workflow, and they wanted to work with Slack on that project. So we partnered with them to understand in detail what their data use cases were going to be for Slack and how we could help them implement appropriate controls in their environment so that they could be comfortable with the work that their employees had to do using Slack. And that meant that they could take the handcuffs off of their employees. They didn't have to limit the use cases for their employees or restrict the way that they were using Slack. And that means they could use Slack in a way that was most productive for their organization. And that's what we want for all of you, because that means you can get the most value out of your investment in Slack. All right, so these are a few of the features that we talk with our customers about the most often. So you probably have some identity access and management program, and you're dealing with user management all the time. And we know how hard it is, right? We maintain an enterprise operation ourselves. We have the same challenge you do to make sure that every user in our organization has the right access at the right time. And unfortunately, one of the hardest times to do that is during offboarding or termination of employees. As a security audit professional, I can tell you that offboarding users is a particular challenge in most identity management programs. So we can help with that. We have these features that will let you automate the relationship between your source of truth and Slack. So let's say you're using Active Directory as your source of truth. You have an employee who's going to be transitioning out of your organization or even into a new responsibility. You can use these features to sync that source of truth with your Slack instance. So that means when you do have to terminate a relationship or terminate responsibilities for a particular employee, that transition happens in Active Directory, and then automatically we deactivate the user's profile for you in Slack. We revoke the active sessions that user may have open, and will even remotely wipe their device. So more than thinking of Slack as a product, we actually think of it as an ecosystem. And for those of you who have been over to Integrate and seen some of the wonderful presentations over there, you understand how important our app directory is to us and to our users. These rich additions to Slack are what bring a lot of value to the organization. For me, there's nothing I want to do in my organization unless I'm doing it via Slack. That's just kind of how we live and breathe at Slack. It's how we get through our day. And I'm sure your employees will feel the same way when they've been working with Slack for a while. They may even want to create their own integrations at some point. But as the owner for your application, as the owner for your Slack workspace, you're responsible to make sure nothing changes in that workspace unless it's done in a way that protects the data governance and security and compliance requirements your organization has. So you have to have some control over that process. So we give you a set of features that let you limit and control how integrations are added to your Slack workspace. We give you the tools you need to be successful in controlling that. We have a fairly evolved process that we use at Slack HQ for adding integrations to our workspace. For example, we're going to analyze the use cases that are associated with that application. We're going to make sure that they're strategic. We're going to look at how well that application will support our own IT team's efforts. We're going to look at the security of that application again. So Slack already does a preliminary security review of every application before adding it to the Slack directory. The app directory, just to make sure it's working according to our standards. We're going to look at the token scoping. We're going to take a few first passes at the security of that application and make sure it's sound. But there are more specific security tests you're going to want to do for any application, depending on your specific use cases for that app. And you may even find that the integration allows the vendor to review your Slack data. So if there's any case where the vendor is going to have access to your Slack data, you probably want to review that vendor, right? You want to qualify that the vendor's service and the vendor's infrastructure is sound for hosting that data on your behalf or accessing that data on your behalf. All of these things you have to decide for yourself. Are they part of your process or not? Are they part of what you need to do? But once you do decide that, you can use the features here to be sure that those items are completed and well done before any application is authorized to interact with your Slack workspace. All right, data compliance. This is such a big area. We have so many requirements that we're all trying to meet in order to ensure good data governance in our organizations. We know you need to have the visibility and control over your data to feel comfortable that your business's interests are being protected. So let's say, for example, that you work with financial data in particular. Maybe you're a financial services organization, or maybe you're just working in a part of your business that's responsible for handling financial instruments, maybe credit card numbers or account information. And you want to make sure that information doesn't get stored in Slack. Great. You can leverage the data loss prevention API that we've created and the integrations that we've created with some of the vendors who are here. If you were down on the vendor floor and you saw the Netscope or Sky-High integrations that are available with Slack, those are designed to address this issue. So those systems allow you to monitor your Slack data, to detect classes of data that are of concern, and then to take action based on a rule set that you've defined. So you can decide that if you see a credit card number in your Slack data, you can quarantine that data, you can mask that data, or you can even remove that information if you don't want it to be in your Slack instance. But maybe you're just using Slack for chat, just day-to-day conversations, right? That seems pretty easy and straightforward, but maybe some of those conversations are between your CEO and your general counsel, and they're about something sensitive like your merger and acquisition that you're working on, and you don't actually want to retain a record. Great. Per-channel retention settings will let you remove that information frequently. We use that feature on the security team. We have our own private channel where we delete the information out of the channel on a regular basis. That leaves us free to discuss security problems, issues, opportunities for improvement that we wouldn't otherwise necessarily want to keep a long record of, mostly because that information is sensitive to us, and once we resolve the issue, there's really no point in retaining it. It just becomes a liability and a risk for the organization in general. So per-channel retention settings are a great tool for that. You may have the opposite concern, though. You may have the need to retain your data for an extended period of time, either because you have some regulation that you're looking to comply with that requires retention of data, or you may have you may be under litigation, right? You may need to do some discovery on that data. So we have some tools to support that. So you can certainly use our export compliance to maintain an offline record of all of the data that you have in your Slack instance. But you may also wish to integrate with some of the e-discovery tools. Smarsh was here in our vendor area, and they're one of the many e-discovery providers that we've worked with. Again, we have a fully functional API so that they can help you with all the search and retention of data that you need to respond to any complicated e-discovery opportunity. The features vary by plan, so please work with your account representative if you want more information about those capabilities. All right, so those are some of the key features that we find customers most interested in when talking about how they can comply with data governance and security requirements using Slack. But we also have a number of Slack-operated security measures as well. I am very proud of the features we offer, but I am equally proud of the security program that we've built at Slack to protect your data. Slack is a great place to build a security program. I've really never worked anywhere with less friction around improving security practices. It really resonated for me this morning when Jeff talked about how Slack is not a place where you hide your problems. It's a place where you share your problems, and every security team in the world understands the value of having people come to them when they know they might have a potential security issue. And that is the kind of culture we have at Slack, for sure. All right, so at the heart of any security program is a great security team. So step one in understanding the effectiveness of our program is understanding that we have a great team that is supporting it. As you can see, this is a multidisciplinary team, very well qualified, fully staffed to run the gamut of all the components of a security program that you might need. We've built a fabulous organization for sure, but we're not stopping there. We're actually going to grow this team by an additional 50% by the end of 2017 if we meet our hiring targets. Send me your resumes. If you know anyone who's interested in working in security, I'd love to hear from you. We also have the additional benefit of a bug bounty program under the green there. It's the third from the bottom. Bug bounties are, for us, a great way to expand the impact of our security program. So it lets us take advantage of security researchers all over the world who are interested in improving the security of Slack. Great. We want to hear from them. Our bug bounty is a way to provide a structured interface to that incredible pool of intelligence and capability. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in learning more about that bug bounty, check out the engineering blog post that we have on that topic. All right, so here's a few bullet points on the components of our security program that you would probably expect to see. Yes, there are 6 bullets on this slide. My marketing team told me, Larkin, you cannot put 6 bullets on a slide. And I said, how are you limiting me to 6 bullets on this slide? There's so much more I need to talk about. Obviously, we have a comprehensive program. It is aligned with security standards, and it is what you would expect from a world-class business application. I include the unsexy things here, like scanning and patching, because they are so important. It goes without saying that we do that, but I'm saying it because it's one of the #1 things we know as security professionals we all need to do to protect our infrastructure. Okay, so here are a few more highlights. I can't, unfortunately, talk through everything, but there will be time for Q&A at the end, so you'll have the opportunity to ask me questions about anything I miss. So let's start with encryption. Yes, we are an open ecosystem of features and integrations. We have an advanced system of security controls that protect that, and of course, encryption is an important part of that. I'm showing you here the results of the sslabs.com scan for our workspace URL. So if you want to go to SSL Labs and in their test enter the URL for any site you work with on the internet, they will give you a score. We maintain an A+ score. So this shows that our encryption in transit is hardened to the best world-class standards for encryption in transit. I invite you to do that with all of the vendors whose sites you work with, and I hope they all have as good a score as we do. They may not. All right, for encryption at rest, I'm not going to cover the 512-byte keys, AES ciphers, and SHA-256 hash for key derivation, because that's probably more than you want to hear about. So let's move on. All right, so this is another area of security programs that I think most people would say is not among the sexiest part. Monitoring and alerting can be a pretty dry and pretty boring area for security professionals to spend their time, but not at Slack. At Slack, monitoring and alerting is a key differentiator, and I'm going to pause here and give a hat tip to Ryan, Huber, Nate Brown, and the rest of the security engineering team for the really wonderful system that they've built here. Not going into too much technical detail about how it works, but we've implemented a structure on every server at Slack that's looking at attempts to escalate, privilege, and interact with customer data in inappropriate ways. So there's a rule set that's looking at all that system activity and determining things that are suspicious and raising appropriate alerts to the information security team. And that may seem like, yeah, great, okay, terrific, but it really actually works. I'm going to refer you to our blog posts, syscall auditing at scale, and distributed security alerting on the Slack engineering blog to read more about it. If that's not enough for you and you want to dig in even deeper, this is open source. You can go ahead and dig into the open source repository for these services, and you can use them yourselves. We've actually inspired some forward-thinking cloud providers like Airbnb and Dropbox to adopt similar systems. So take a look at their engineering blogs as well. But this is the thing that helps me sleep at night and gives me comfort that nothing is getting close to our customer data without our knowing about it. All right, so how do we know all this works? What do we do as a security team to test our security program and make sure that it's comprehensive? Well, one of the things we do to measure our effectiveness is that we engage experts to attack our network application and infrastructure. We've worked with a variety of teams, but here's an excerpt from one of our latest reports from the good folks at NCC Group, which is a well-known and respected security consulting firm. This is just one paragraph, but I think it demonstrates their experience, which unfortunately for them was a very frustrating one, but fortunately for us was very frustrating for them. Because of the monitoring and alerting system that we had implemented, in addition to other security controls and measures in our site, they really weren't able to make any progress in attacking our network. So we take comfort from this, that should someone attempt to breach our services with a real attack, that they would not get very far at all. If you want more information than this, it's available. We make our penetration test summaries available to those who would like to have a look at them. Just reach out to your account representative. Spoiler alert, it's all good news. All right, so we think we're doing a pretty good job with security, and we'd like to share that fact with you. We don't expect you to just come to us and say, hey, how's your security program going? And us to say, great, and you to go, good, and be satisfied with that. So we're working constantly to comply with a wide variety of recognized industry standards for security. We engage external assessors who evaluate our compliance with these many well-known security standards. We have some that we've already achieved and others that we are working to achieve in the near future, such as ISO 27001. But that's not by any means the end of it. As our customer base expands, we know we're going to see customers with changing and advancing security requirements as well. We're going to be going into new markets in different places around the world. We're going to have the opportunity to continue raising the bar for Slack to meet the needs of these customers. All right, so in summary, you've probably heard it before. We take security seriously here. And I get tired of hearing that sometimes with the vendors that I work with. It's not enough to hear people say we take security seriously. There has to be a lot behind that when someone says that. And at Slack, there is. In fact, just to say that, I think at Slack is an understatement. It's built into everything we do. It's actually part of our product. It's part of our infrastructure. And maybe most important of all, it is part of our culture. All right, so that's just some of the information we could share with you here today about how we use Slack to secure your data and how our infrastructure helps support that. We want to talk with you about this in as much detail as you would like. I am very available if you want to reach out through your account representative to talk with any customer about our security program at Slack. In fact, I will be here around the conference for the rest of the day, so if you see me, don't hesitate to ask me any additional questions. But we have 10 minutes left right now if anyone would like to ask a question here. There are mic runners around the room, so if you have a question, just make sure you have a mic in front of you before you start talking. I see someone in the front here, so while the mic runner is getting up there, I'll also put out a comment for the next presentation here from Dino. That's going to be great. Hi.
So my question is, does Slack have an on-premise installation? And if no, then does it have something like key management or encryption models and so on?
That's a great question, and I thank you for asking that question. It's a question that we get pretty often, right? Because people have the sense that if they maintain control of their data, then they can be most assured that the security model that's protecting it, the data governance that's protecting it, meets their standards. We talk to people who have a different, there are some subsets of those requirements that people have. To directly answer your question, no, we don't have an on-prem solution. We don't have a key management model. We have, because of the nature of the product, because of the integrations, because of the search, because of a lot of the capabilities, there's no real easy way to provide that capability and still have all the great features about Slack that you know and love. But I was actually talking to one of our customers yesterday, and kind of a related thing came up. He was saying how he has a mindset issue that he has to deal with in deploying Slack because some of the people that he works with have been managing the enterprise email server for 25 years, and they know it so well, right? They know exactly what they need to do to secure that server. And what I said was, well, 100 years ago, everybody who drove a car was a mechanic. Right? So it's not always going to be the case that you need to drive the car to be able to operate it safely. All right, great question. I thank you very much for answering that. Not a plant. Anyone else? Yes, over here.
So I was wondering if all of the Slack-operated security measures that you just went through apply to both Slack and Enterprise Grid, or if there are some features for one versus the other.
Thank you for that great question, because that's definitely something that I want to make clear. They apply to everything. There is nothing that we're carving out in our program. Everything is treated in the same way from the point of view of the security program, the level of testing, the oversight, the security measures that we apply. Okay, two more right here in the front. Thank you for waiting for the mic. You guys are all very good at following instructions, so congratulations.
In light of recent news, what is your policy on notifying customers if there was some kind of intrusion or event? How soon would that be made known to us?
Yeah, so the answer really there should always be as soon as possible, right? There's never any reason to delay in letting customers know about any potential risk to their data. There is obviously a lot of work that any security team has to do in the event that a breach is detected that goes around stopping the breach, making sure you've stopped the breach, and then double checking again that you've stopped the breach, right? Because that's got to be your highest priority, is to make sure that you're not losing any more data. So at Slack, we set a requirement, though, of notification of 48 hours.
The value of real Slack is with all the integrations and ecosystem. So how much do you enforce these kind of security rules to your partners that are building on top of the platform?
such a great question, right? I mean, that is where, for me, so I actually manage the reviews that we do at Slack of the integrations that we permit in our own workspace, right? So that's part of my team's responsibility, is nothing gets added to Slack unless we've done our diligence on the security and the impact of that integration to our security model. So the work we do with our ecosystem right now is very structured. We do a security test, we do a security review of each application, but it's not what I would say is as comprehensive as it could be. This is still an area of shared responsibility. We are working on education and outreach, so we're working to really improve the level of collaboration we have with our app directory vendors, because we know this is a risk, right? If the ecosystem becomes a significant source of risk, then it diminishes the value of the product. And like I said at the beginning, our goal is to make sure you're getting all the value out of this product that you can get. So I'm just going to say that's an area that we're continuing to invest, and some of that 50% headcount increase is targeted at exactly that area.
Yeah, and actually, to expand upon that, we just had an incident with an app provider who changed SaaS providers, and right in the middle of things. And all they did was write it on their app description that they changed SaaS providers, and that was a great concern to us that they did that. And we immediately went in and stopped using the app and disabled all the integrations. But I mean, to prevent stuff like that, especially if you're using a lot of apps and you have a lot of integration, you almost need a full-time staff to manage that. So I mean, it would be great to see Slack keep a tighter grip on that, or give some sort of notifications or knock people off their store or whatever the case would be. Right.
Slack certified, like put a little badge.
Yeah, or something like
blue
that.
check mark.
With reviews on any changes that are made to their application, or as the apps are updated, or any changes that are made to them.
I'm just going to say at this point that I completely agree, and I can't say more at this time, but it's definitely an opportunity of investment that we're looking at.
Hello.
Hi. I know, right? It really works.
Okay. Do you have consultants or anyone on the security side for? So several clients I'm working with, are the financial services institution or Department of Defense and so forth. So what they look for is someone to come in to say, okay, this is how we align the ports, this is how we do the DMZ and everything else to help lower the risk of intrusion and everything, so you can actually use Slack on the cloud. Do you have people that can help with that type of work?
Absolutely. We have, I think, we have a great team in-house that works with us on that. That is part of what we're looking to get from the security consultants and external assessors we work with, is feedback on topics like that. I think it's a never-ending area of opportunity for us to get more consulting and more feedback on those topics as well. I actually, one of the roles that I have open right now is a headcount to focus on those specific issues. So I'm looking at bringing that in-house, but definitely, part of what I look for when I bring people in-house is their understanding of what we can do best in-house and what we have to do relying on external support. And it's a balance. Because one person can't know everything, and that's the hard thing in security, is to know what you do know and what you don't. So we'll always be working with consultants.
Hi. You mentioned device management and the ability to remote wipe. Can you touch on a little bit more on that?
Yeah, sure. So we recently announced our enterprise mobility management feature, and that includes support for the app config suite of products. So, if you're familiar with MobileIron and other vendors that provide MDM level support, we have features that are available to support that. I am not the best person to answer that question. It's a new feature, and I don't have all the details on it. So find me after, and I'll hook you up with the right person if you want to dig in there a little bit more.
Towards the end of your presentation, you had a slide there that had some more security certifications. I think I saw HIPAA up there.
Right,
PCI.
this one.
Does that mean that Slack is HIPAA compliant, PCI?
Sure, yes. So, for PCI especially, it's always a matter of what part of your infrastructure is PCI compliant, so I like to make sure that people understand what that means. And I'm going to focus on PCI just for a minute because I gave the example earlier in the presentation about you don't want your credit card numbers to exist in Slack. So if you see this and you go, but you're PCI, but you're saying no credit card, what does that mean? Great question that I'm inferring from the question you just asked me. And I see we only have a few seconds left here, so I think this is going to have to be the last question, and I'll try not to go too long with it, but the team here will tell me when I need to get off the stage. So with PCI, you're always very tightly scoped. You're looking at a particular portion of your infrastructure that is compliant with PCI and for which it is acceptable to enter credit card numbers. And that is the portion of our website where credit cards are collected from our users for the purposes of payment. It's not for the rest of the site, right? So this also goes back to the question you asked over here about whether or not we applied all of our security standards. So there are some scoping considerations. They apply universally, and Grid is certainly as covered as the rest of the product with respect to the audits we do. But in any audit, scope is one consideration. Similarly for HIPAA, it's specifically scoped, and you can reach out to your account rep to find out what the scoping restrictions are around HIPAA too. Okay, I think that's all the time we have for questions. I think you guys get a break now. I'm sure you're ready for a break halfway through the afternoon, so go get a snack, and then come back up here and see the presentation from Dino Roberts. He's our amazing head of global facilities, and he is the most interesting person you'll ever meet in your life, so don't miss his presentation. Thank you all very much.